Hi, I'm Lois, and I've been thinking about perception. When you observe an event, do you interpret it in the same way that other people do? You might say, well, of course. I suggest think again. You might be surprised how other people perceive the same situation. I'll give you some examples why I say this. Many years ago, there was a TV series called 30 Something, and it was about three couples in their 30s just living life. But there was one episode that really stood out to me. The episode was divided into three parts, and each of the parts was the way each of the three couples perceived an event which they all attended. And it was amazing. You would have thought it was three different events. They were so different. The three couples saw the event in three extremely different ways. And of course, that was fiction. I'm sure the writer had based it on some experience, but I've also seen the same type of thing happen in real life. And I'll give you an example of that. Many years ago, when I was a grad student, I was sharing an apartment with three other people, Sue, Nanny, and Joan. And one evening, Sue and I were sitting in one room studying, and Nanny was in another room working on an art project for an art class. And she came out and she said, "Oh, I cut myself." Well, she had been working with an X-Acto knife on her art project, and she cut her hand quite badly. And Sue just jumped up and freaked out. And she said, "Oh, you've got to go to the hospital. You've got to go to emergency. I'll take you there." And she ran, grabbed her purse, grabbed her keys, grabbed Nanny, and off they went. Well, a couple hours later, they came back, and Nanny had had several stitches in her hand. It was a pretty bad cut, but everything was fine. And I was thinking, wow, Nanny sure was calm about that cut. It was pretty bad, especially to have that many stitches. Well, a few days later, I heard Sue telling somebody else about the very same incident. And she was saying, "Oh, Nanny just freaked out. She was so scared." And I thought, wait a minute, did she see the same thing I saw? And then I started thinking, oh, now I see. Sue was projecting her own reaction onto Nanny. And she perceived Nanny according to herself. And I started wondering, well, did I do that too? I don't know. Perhaps I did. But since then, I've been making it a point to observe the way different people perceive the same event. And in my best analysis, I have concluded that we must base our perception of events on our own personalities, our own attitudes, experiences, and backgrounds affect the way that we perceive events that we encounter. Oh, here's another example. I've often been teased by men that I work with or a male friend. And when that happens, I usually just laugh it up with them, join in, have fun, and feel good about it. And then I realized that a lot of women don't react that way. They get indignant and offended, and I can't understand it. Well, after thinking it through a little more, I thought back, and I had a father and brother that were the most wonderful, compassionate men in the world, but they were big teases, and they would tease me mercilessly. But I would laugh along, and we would have a good time, and it would actually be a bonding experience. And, it just made us all feel good. Unfortunately, a lot of women did not have that kind of experience with their fathers and brothers. And so they interpret being teased in a different way than I do. Well, most of the time, or much of the time, these kinds of conflicts in perception don't cause any real trouble, but in some situations they do. It can cause some serious misunderstandings, arguments, and possibly even the loss of a friend. And in the worst case, it might even cost a job. Somebody might get offended so badly that they lose their job. And I realized that, we really need to find ways to avoid these bad results. So I did a little research and I found so much information in articles and studies. And I discovered that companies even hire experts to come in and train their employees how to avoid conflict before it happens because they perceive different situation or the same situation differently. In fact, I learned so much from my research that I might even create another episode based on that research. But for now, just remember that when someone's describing an event in a different way than you observed it, that their perception was different than yours. Sometimes you even might feel like shouting, I know exactly what happened. I was there. I saw it with my own eyes. Remember, everyone sees the world through different eyes. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.